Hello and welcome to the Moviescramble podcast. You join us today on another of our very special Collab episodes where we invite another podcaster, writer or whatever to join us and to discuss a film. The film in question is one that is special to them. It's ignited their love for cinema in some way. It could be a recent film, it could be a film from the dim and distant past or somewhere in between. It's entirely up to the guest to actually choose this. Now, today I am joined, as always, by my co-host Mary. Mary, how the hell are you doing?
I am upright and functioning after 3 cancelled podcasts. We are back, baby. And apologies to all the guests that we had to cancel on. I have been extremely unwell. I renamed my illness Paul Thomas Anderson's One Infection After Another because I felt that was very appropriate.
Nice. I won't comment on your illness at all because that would be very rude of me. I think I would really get away with that. Getting stuck into someone who's not particularly well.
Yeah,
it's not
don't
great
tell
optics.
Anyone that I unzipped down the back or anything like that. None of the secrets get given away just yet.
So our special guest today is Lauren McAllister, a podcaster. Lauren, how the hell are you doing?
Hello, I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me on.
The film that Lauren chose for us to talk about today is the 1952 musical romantic comedy Singin In The Rain from directors Stanley Donen and Gene Kelly. It stars Kelly alongside Donald O'Connor, Debbie Reynolds, Gene Hagen and Sid Charisse, and there are a few other bodies in there as well. So this is a film that is set at a transitional period in Hollywood, 1927. The talkies are just about to come in and Kelly and Hagen play the parts of Don Lockwood and Lena Lamont, who are stars of the silent screen. They tend to be in kind of costume type dramas where it's all very expressive and it's all a wee bit cheesy, but they can kind of get away with it because it's silent cinema and they are two very good looking people who light up the screen. On the premiere of their latest film, there are a few tensions that have become apparent that have been ongoing for a certain amount of time between Don and Lena. And at the after party for the premiere, the head of the studio presents them with this image and sound combination that is going to be all the rage. He says, apparently one of the studios has taken it up. They're going to make a film called The Jazz Singer, and they're going to lose their shirts on this, and everybody agrees with him because he's the head of the studio and nobody wants to disagree with him in any way. And of course it doesn't turn out that way at all. And in the middle of their new film, is it The Dancing Cavalier? Something like that. The studio shuts down for 3 weeks in order to make everything a sound film. They start putting in all the equipment and everything they need. When this film is actually going into its previews, they discover that basically it's a big pile of shite because nobody really knows how to act properly and it's a very different medium for them. And there is also the problem with the fact that Lena does not have a particularly alluring voice. And from there, they have to try and work out what they are going to do. And it's basically a case of, let's just do the show right here because they turn it into a musical, which gives you a fair idea of what the film is actually about. Like I say, it's from 1952. It's revered as being one of the greatest musicals of all time, although critics at the time were a bit sniffy about it. It was only upon re-releases and then television that it actually became the revered film that it is now. Now, Lauren, this was your choice. What is your sort of history with Singin In The Rain? When was like the first time you saw it?
So this is a complete childhood favourite. I used to go to my nanny Kathy's every Friday. My nanny is in grand, not as in like childminder. Like we're not that rich. But, I used to go to my nanny Kathy's every Friday, and it was either some form of really violent Mel Gibson movie or Singing in the Rain. And the first time I watched Singing in the Rain, I was just like, what is going on? Completely thought I was Cosmo Brown, and like I used to take my tap shoes up to my nanny's house and try and like recreate it, and then got to the point where I tried to run up the door, and you've never seen a 70-year-old woman fly towards a door to be like, no. And like since then, this has just been like a total comfort film for me. Like if I'm having a rubbish day, or like if the week's paranoid me, I'm like, okay, it's time for Singing in the Rain. And it just immediately puts a smile on your face. And like, I just have lovely memories of watching it with my nanny. And like, she was like a proper like gossip she was a proper gossip columnist of like all of the like 50s stars. So like, I can hear in my head at different points in the movie where she's like, he broke his foot, she did this, it did it. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So is there any footage of this time when you were singing and dancing along to the film? Any video footage? No.
Absolutely not.
That's a bit of a pity. Huh?
To the point where she told me she had a neighbour. I was told not to bring my tap shoes up anymore because our downstairs neighbour was getting annoyed. And then when my nanny died, we found out that the downstairs neighbour didn't exist. It was just purely that she'd had enough of my tap shoes and was like, hey, that's plenty.
Oh, nice. That's brilliant. Mary, when was the first time you saw this film?
So I feel like Lauren and I had a very similar introduction to this film. I used to, if I was ever staying over at my Granny Betty's house in the morning, she would sing Good Morning to us. Now, just to be clear, my Granny Betty could not sing, and that's not even me being harsh. Like, she was generally like one of the worst singers I've ever heard in my puff. So she would butcher that of a morning when you were getting up. And then I remember asking her, Gran, what's that from? And she would say, oh, it's this film, Singing in the Rain. And a bit like Lauren's Gran, she had all the gossip. So it was all about, Sid Charisse and how glamorous she was and the longest legs and how they were insured, and Gene Kelly and, Debbie Reynolds, and she'd her heart broken by, her husband who ran away with Elizabeth Taylor and all this sort of thing. So I feel like I get swept up in classic Hollywood itself whenever I go to watch this film. But I've got it on DVD. The poster for it hangs in my living room. I went to see it last year at the GFT for a special anniversary release. It's packed full of everything that I love. It's so vibrant. The music is great and the performances are incredible. And of course, I do have a massive crush on Gene Kelly because his butt looks amazing in dance trousers, and I'm not ashamed to say that.
So you don't think he wears push-up boxer briefs or anything like that?
I don't even care if he does. Pep. It just looks so good.
It's the arms as well. He's got great arms.
Yeah.
I'm sure he must have trimmed them because they had a bit of hair on them, but they weren't that hairy. I think he's more of a hairy guy than he kind of let on.
I love a hairy man, so I'm good with that.
For myself, I would have probably seen this the first time probably around about Christmas time, because it used to get shown at Christmas all the time on the telly. Now we're talking probably the late 70s here, so it was kind of a staple, one of these, that and The Great Escape and various other ones you would get around about Christmas time every year, and it would be like prime time around about then. It's not now when it's just on whenever, but yes, I remember watching it then and was totally captivated by it because these people move in such a splendid way, just with the dancing and everything. I was just totally captivated with it, and obviously there's the songs and the comedy and everything as well, so there's kind of something in there for everybody. But as a young boy, yes, you look at these sort of films and you think that must have been brilliant to actually see that in the cinema and everything. And I have seen it since then, obviously in the cinema. I think I owned this in video cassette at one time as well, a long time ago. But yes, so obviously we have watched this film again for this particular podcast. As I was saying just before we come onto the pod, I actually watched it last night in a fit of panic. Because I had forgotten to watch it before now. But having said that, I probably remembered about 90% of it anyway. So, Lauren, did anything surprise you this time when you were watching it? I mean, in terms of what surprised you the most? Was it the comedy, choreography, the satire, or what really stood out for you this time?
Yeah, I don't think, obviously as a child you're not really going to pick up on like the satire of it all, but I really love the kind of peek behind the curtain, like kind of it. And also like Broadway melody doesn't annoy me as much as when I was an adult. When I was younger, I was like, come on now, let's get back to Cosmo Brown. Whereas like now I'm an adult, I'm like, why didn't fly about?
Mary, you obviously watched it. Well, you sent me a message saying you'd watched it yesterday. So
reminder, yeah, and I've seen this film I feel like 1,000 times. I don't know if there's anything that surprises me this time. I will, again, not to parrot, but I will agree with Lauren that Broadway melody I hated as a child. It was like fast forward it on the video because it just seemed so out of place. Whereas now, when you look at it as a set piece, you're like, oh my god, this is just a flawless piece of choreography and craftsmanship, and it's such a love letter to cinema. My thoughts this time around were, I do think that Gene Kelly's character in a way almost reminds me of a sort of like Tom Cruise type, because when we see him initially, he starts off as like the stunt man and we get this little montage of stunts. And Tom Cruise has long professed his love of classic Hollywood cinema and his desire to make a musical. And I wonder if he's sort of taken a little bit of inspiration from not necessarily Gene Kelly, but actually the Don Lockwood side of things.
Yeah, the kind of star that Lockwood is in terms of having a sort of a finger in every single department and that kind of thing. And yeah, I can see that. Yeah, totally. Yes. For myself, it was more the sort of comedy aspects of it that stood out more for me. I always loved the choreography. And like you said, Lauren, when you're wee, you don't really think about the satire angle of it. You just take everything on the surface. So there's actually quite a lot going on there. And especially with the likes of Donald O'Connor here, he's comedy genius as far as I'm concerned. He's just absolutely fantastic. He doesn't put a foot wrong, but that's not to say any of them put a foot wrong in this film. I don't think they do. It's that film, it's at that kind of level. So, as I said, the film's set in 1927 in a period where Hollywood was coming to probably its first crossroads. It's been there several times since with the advent of television, and then we had like home media, and now we've got AI and all sorts of things there. I mean, God goodness knows what the next thing's going to be after AI, but it's always been seen as the death of Hollywood. Now, how well do you think that this sort of captures that sort of madness around a change that nobody wants to make, but then everybody is forced to make? What did you think about that in terms of the film itself?
I think it captures it really well. Like, I can imagine different types of this conversation happening when like VHSs came out and DVDs came out. Like, I remember when DVDs came out and my dad was like, I'm never buying a DVD player. This is never going to last. And now look at us, do you know what I mean? Like, DVDs are basically almost obsolete. And I think it shows obviously the fear. Obviously, I love the errors, like where it's like, talk into the mic. Like, the mic is in the bush. But it's also how they can like kind of bounce back from it. And they're like, okay, this isn't working as like a yes, no. So we have to turn it into a musical and make everybody, like, it's the kind of innovation of it to keep going. And I think that's something that I hope will carry on. Like, I hope we can be like, AI, go away, do you know what I mean? And we can keep making amazing movies as the years go on.
Yeah, I kind of get the feeling that AI has already been embedded. So I don't think it's going anywhere, unfortunately. I think it's used an awful lot. And it's difficult to tell sometimes when it is used. So, but that's a whole other podcast. I'm not even going to start with that nonsense. Mary, what about yourself?
Yeah, I think it definitely shows that cinema has a desire to innovate, even if they say certain trends won't catch on. It's about, as Lauren said, it's about that production stage where it's like, well, the microphone has to be sewn into her dress or maybe on her shoulder, or, the sound doesn't quite work right. And then Cosmo rightly notes, well, there's no place for him anymore because he was the pianist who would sort of get the actors sort of like into like the scene, whereas there's no need for that if they're going to actually talk to each other. So I think it shows the desire Hollywood's always had to adapt and how difficult it is to stay on top, because cinema has been under threat for, well, basically since its inception, from lots of other different mediums. You know, we talk about streamers causing the death of the cinema. People don't want to go to cinema anymore. They'll just wait a couple of weeks and it'll be on Shudder or Netflix or whatever it is. So I think it's definitely a testament to the sort of desire to survive, and also how many moving parts there are to a film as well, because we only see the finished piece where it's maybe a director and the cast, but actually it's everybody that's involved in making a film and how they have to sort of change their responsibilities, or maybe they lose their place altogether in a system that's just seems to be constantly battling to survive, to entertain us.
Yeah, totally. It gives you a few scenes where you see them filming several different films at the one time within the one sort of studio.
Oh, that's a gorgeous shot. I love that.
Yeah. When Dawn's walking through and there's like maybe 3 different setups that are on the go, and because it's silent cinema, like people can stand about and talk as well. There's no need for like silence and all this. And even when they're walking, they're like they sort of duck under the cameras and things like that, just to add to the whole sort of chaos of it. And it's very much a production line, because if you think about it, cinema, especially round about then, they were producing films. It was like a 3-week turnaround, 3-4 weeks to actually get a film made. So you were like directors and actors, they had like 25-30 credits in a year sometimes, depending on the sort of level of stardom. If they were a lesser player, they would just jump from one film to the next, and then as their career progressed, they would do less and less work, but the productions still rolled on with the same sort of frequency, because there was just so much content out there. What am I saying? What are we like now with content?
Yeah, no.
And I did mention the C word, which I don't particularly like mentioning, but never mind. So obviously this is a film, it was made in the 50s, about the 1920s. Do you think it feels dated in a certain way, or do you think it's kind of timeless, Lauren?
This movie is so timeless. Like, even just the story alone, see, just like the universal story of, like, you know, overcoming the odds to make a brilliant musical, you know, happens to a lot of us, but it's just a pure universal story of like a group of friends working together to make the better finished product, and everything about it is just beautiful. And like, I watched it at the weekend with my friend who had never seen this movie, and you know, when you show people like older movies, you're like, oh no, is this going to bore them? Are they going to be like, ugh? She was laughing, she was cackling, she was crying by the end, and I was like, yes. So just even the fact that you can like show someone it and they've never seen it before, and she was like, I loved it, I swear it was great, because I was like, am I boring you? But that just shows how timeless it is, that she's not like an old movie watcher, and she was immediately like, amazing, who's that? Where can I watch more Gene Kelly, you know? So I don't actually know if it's the movie that's timeless or if it's Gene Kelly that's timeless.
Well, I think it's a combination of both.
All of the above.
Are you using this as sort of like an acid test for friendship? If they can watch Singing in the Rain with you, then they're all right.
Absolutely, yeah. There's a list of like a few where it's like, right, okay, we're going to watch this to see if you have great taste or if you like good music. Or
oh, I mean, yeah, I as I said, I've watched this film 1,000 times. I'm yet to find something that could ever put me off it or get bored of it, and I think it is a very good litmus test as to how good your love of cinema is if you can sit down and appreciate something like this. I think I'm always amazed every time I watch it how much it packs in, because for some reason I thought this film was a good 2.5 hours, and it's actually only like 1 hour and 45 minutes, but there's so many big numbers, so many iconic set pieces, so many, you know, vocal stems that you will pick up as you watch this film. Like, it's unbelievable how much it does within its runtime, and it's just, yeah, as far as I'm concerned, this is as close to flawless as you can get with cinema. And if we were picking our own films, John, this would probably be close to one of mine as well.
Oh yeah, I'll be right there with you, to be perfectly honest. But yes, I think that it is a timeless movie just because it's one that I've rewatched so many times, and it just, yeah, you could say that, yeah, if it was made now, it would be completely different because it wouldn't have the same sort of style of dancing, the same musical numbers and everything like that. But that's neither here nor there. That's just styles as they are now. But yeah, I think it's one of these films you can sit down and watch with anybody, and they'll take something from it in one way or another. I think it will. Now, which narrative thread stands out? I think it's the romance angle between Dawn and Kathy, or do you think it's the whole sort of friendship everything that's actually on the go throughout the whole film as well. Which do you think's your sort of favourite sort of narrative thread along?
For me, it's definitely the friendship and the comedy. I'm not really like I like an old-timey romance, but I'm not really like a proper romancy kind of gal. But this is enough for me, you know, like they're all pals. And Debbie Fisher's as cute as a button. Like, why would you not want to be with her, you know? Like
Yep. She was only 19 at the time when actually made that film as well. Yeah.
Oh, and she's a little pastel-clad angel throughout this film. I mean, I hate to sound like a parrot, but yeah, I love the Dawn and Cosmo relationship because it sets it up really nicely. Because when we see the premiere of The Royal Rascal, Cosmo gets out his car and the crowd goes like, yeah, oh. And there's this like moment of deflation for Cosmo where he realizes he's a nobody on the red carpet, but actually Dawn sees him as a somebody. And I think that's so important because there's this notion that Dawn's this perfect, you know, pearly white grin star, but actually his relationship with Cosmo means something to him. And their songs together, like Moses Supposes is one of my favorite sort of musical set pieces ever. Like I just think it's so fast, it's so clever. And yeah, I love the comedy dynamic that they have. Like Donald O'Connor and sort of Danny Kaye are kind of two of my favorite sort of like old time musical stars, and they give the very sort of similar vibe. They bring the same kind of style to a film, and yeah, I love the relationship between the two. And I'm not adverse to a bit of, as Lauren said, a wee bit of old timey romance. Yeah, for some reason Donald O'Connor just kind of steals it for me.
Yeah, I like the way that it went from being a sort of two-hander with Dawn and Cosmo to the introduction of Kathy, and there was never any friction there. She just became one of the team right away. I really like that, and I like the way that Dawn was very sort of humanized in very, very clever ways, because when he was walking about, he would talk to all the people, all the behind the scenes stuff, and he would know all their names. And it was just a very casual thing. He would just say, oh, thanks very much, and whatever, and he would just name somebody when he was doing it. And that's a way of like sort of expanding his character in a wee bit, just so that he's a nice guy, and then you understand why he is friends with Cosmo and why he can obviously build a relationship with Kathy, but at the same time he's more than happy for her to be welcomed in as like a trio. Then they're all very much a group, and I thought that was really nice the way that, and that kind of beds the whole film really more than anything else. I think it's kind of a nice sort of underlay to the whole film, and then obviously everything else that sort of on top of that works really well. Now, the bits on top of it, the musical numbers and the choreography.
Yay, get your jazz hands out.
I'll go find my tap shoes up in 2 seconds.
Oh, right, okay. Right.
Lauren, bring them. Yeah.
We are
get up on that desk. We want to hear it on the
mic. So, which musical number stands out for you, Lauren?
For me, it's Make 'Em Laugh. Like I love a big ham. I love a hammy performance. And like when I was watching it with my pal, she was like, "Oh, that kind of reminds me of you." I was like, "That is the greatest compliment I've ever heard." Like that, and I'm the same as you, Mary. Like definitely Moses Supposes. Like what a banger. I went to college to do drama, and they used Moses Supposes as Toes Aren't Roses as one of the thing, and I got into trouble every time because I couldn't stop saying it, and the Moses Supposes as Toes Are Roses. They were like, stop it.
Oh my God, you're going to set me off. It does. It just has this amazing beat where you're just like, oh my God, I could do this. I could get up and dance on my desk. I think, honestly, it is one of my favorites. I think their synchronicity, the way it ends as well. Like, I love how they're just like pulling random stuff off the walls and they just have a letter A and it just ends with them just going, A. And you're like, what does this even mean? It's so good. And I think it's sort of testament to the chaos of the era as well, because obviously, like, you get those lovely little spinny variety headlines where they're like dialect coaches in high demand. And then it obviously turns it into this lesson, but I just think they are flawless together. And I know there's lots of drama behind the scenes about how demanding Gene Kelly was with his choreography, but my God, when you can pull it off like that, you can be as demanding as you want, because it's just, as I say, it's one of my favorite sort of set pieces in musical cinema, period, never mind in the film.
Right. You mentioned the choreography there. How do you think that Gene Kelly's choreography, I know it was Gene Kelly and Stanley Donen, because Donen was a dancer in their previous existence as well. So how do you think that kind of shapes the film? Because there is an awful lot of dancing in this film.
I think that
I'm like, no, you're fine. On you go.
On you go, Mary. I can cut this out. Don't worry about it. I'll edit it all.
Thanks. Yeah, just cut my bits out. I definitely think it's the defining thing of the film, right? Because the whole notion is that this film that they're making has to become a musical. So you'd expecting to see big musical numbers. And although as a child I probably found the Broadway melody slightly indulgent because I didn't really understand what was going on, it's just an absolute showcase of the genius that he is. He's able to tell a story through his body. There's not very many people that can do that. And whether it's the sort of like whimsical romantic nature of the titular song, or whether it's the razor sharp execution of something like Moses Supposes or Good Morning, I spend most of my time in complete awe that somebody can move and use their body in that way, and you're so embedded in everything that they're feeling. Like, because although he's hitting his mark and he's doing big, as I say, cheesy smiles to the camera and all the rest of it, you are taken along with this story because of how he can carry it with his dance. And I just think, what a rare and beautiful skill to have. Like, we don't make big musicals like this anymore, and honestly the world is a darker place because of it. Like, this, to me, this is just peak cinema, and him being able to have a vision for what that should look like and how people should, you know, essentially caress the screen is just, I could talk about this all day in case you haven't noticed.
I'm such a fan. I'm like, carry on.
Yeah.
Gene Kelly is a point of contention between my sisters and my dad, because my dad is like stone cold Fred Astaire till he dies. Do you know what I mean? And there's nothing wrong with Fred Astaire. There's nothing wrong with him. But when my father says that Gene Kelly dances like a herd of elephants, I'm like, I nae bother. Do you know what I mean? Don't talk nonsense. I again, echoing everything that Mary's just said, like, Gene Kelly's so charming. Like, there's just that twinkle in his eye. And then even when he does just like, even when he's walking, he'll end up doing like a wee shuffle or like a wee shimmy, and you're like, oh, there he is, there's the guy. So like, you really are, like, anything he does, you can't take your eyes off him. Like, he's just mesmerizing. So absolutely everything Mary said, second that.
Nice. So you both mentioned the Broadway melody sequence, which is it comes just before the finale of the film, and it's an extended sequence. Now, both of you have said you didn't quite like it when you were younger, but have appreciated it a little more when you're older now. Why did you initially think that, and has it obviously changed for you, your opinion of that particular sequence?
I think when you're younger, it's such a juxtaposed to like the rest of the movie. I know he sets it up and is like, I've got this scene going on, and then just immediately whips into it, but it does feel really out of place with the rest of the movie. So you're watching it and you're like, right, hurry up now. Like, I get it. And there's a lot of like, it's actually not as long as it feels, if you get what I mean. Like, and I think because there's no talking, it's just dancing and instrumentals. I think when you're a kid, you're like, right, come on now. But then now as an adult, you're quite happy to watch it. And like you say, big Sid chemise with the insured legs. Like, I never knew if that was true. Like, my nanny used to say that to me all the time, and I was like, I no bother. But I never know if it's true or if it's just like a Hollywood urban legend, because there's like every fourth actress is like, oh, she had her arms insured, oh, she had her legs insured, you know? So like, why didn't I? But I think now when you watch it, you can really appreciate the scope of it. And even, again, I know it sounds daft, but even like the gangsters like flicking their coins in time with the music, I'm like, yes.
It's so good. I feel like it's a real vibe shift, right, for the rest of the film, because as a child, I felt like this disrupted the flow. I didn't like it. Yes, it was colourful, and yes, it was dancey, but it didn't feel the same as everything else. Whereas now, as an adult looking at it, I'm like, yeah, it has all the joy and vibrancy and the technicolor of the rest of the film, but it moves into something a little bit slinkier and a little bit sexier and a little bit edgier. And I really like that you get to see that side of the Don Lockwood character. And also it just shows you what his vision for this film is as well. It's not the kind of twee shite that he's been putting out for the vast majority of his career. Like, he wants to do something quite audacious and quite ambitious. So yeah, I definitely, as Lauren said, the gangsters tossing the coins, that gorgeous, like, long sweeping shot up Sid Charise's legs. You're just like, oh, this is everything that I want. Like, I wish, like, when people say they wish that they think they've been born in the wrong era, that's because I was meant to be Sid Charise's right leg. That's what I was meant to be. Just a camera scrolling up me, Gene Kelly's hands running along me. That's all I wanted in life, really.
I back this so much. What an excellent life choice. I think as an adult as well, when you watch more Gene Kelly movies, he always has this like not self-indulgent, but self-indulgent dance number that always goes on for at least 15 extra minutes than it has to. But you know, if I could move like Gene Kelly, I would also be like, watch me go, boys, you know?
Yeah, you've got to remember that he was partially in charge of the whole thing. So yeah, he's going to
He's
be a
getting his own
little
number.
indulgent. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
There's not many people that can sort of stand there and say, no, sorry, Gene, you're not going to be able to do that. So, and they were trying to appease him at the time as well, because there was a sort of contract dispute with him around about 1952. He wanted out of his MGM contract. So they were, no, Gene, if you do this, you know, we'll give you full reign. You can go and do what you want. So yeah, I think there is an element of that. But having watched it through a sort of adult eyes, it works really, really well because it's a story in itself. It's almost just like a short film from start to finish. And it doesn't, I was the same opinion as you, Lauren. I thought it went on for about 25 minutes, but it's actually only about 10 minutes it actually goes on for at the most. And it's got a starting point, a middle, and an end where it's exactly the same as the starting point. And you think, yeah, you kind of got that. And everything in between is just absolutely fantastic. You can see the ambition there. He's at the top of his game. He's obviously the main choreographer, but he's brought other people in as well to do these. Now, Sid Charisse was the third choice, I believe, to actually do this.
What? Imagine being Sid Charisse and being that fucking beautiful and being somebody's third choice. Raging.
I want to know who 1 and 2 were. Like,
yeah,
how great are your legs?
1 was Debbie Reynolds. 2 was the female lead in American in Paris. Sorry, An American in Paris. And she turned it down because she said, there's no fucking way I am working with Gene Kelly again.
Amazing.
Amazing. I love that.
So third choice was Sid Charisse, who she'd just given birth a short time before that.
Oh my God.
It was like 2 months.
That's so stunning. I will never look that good in my lifetime when she just had a baby.
No, it's when, like, see, to be honest, see if I had legs like Sid Charisse, my skirt would not be that long. I'd be like, yes, gaze upon me. You're right. There's other stories like that about this movie as well. Like, apparently, every time it's on, I know when it happens, but right now my mind's gone blank. But apparently, Gene Kelly had fractured his foot. I think it's actually Good Morning. He'd fractured his foot and had to do the whole thing on like a fractured foot. So you're watching him like spin and jump about. And now every time I watch it, I'm like, ooh, because you're like, that's got to sucked, man.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
Let's
totally.
kind of bring it back to the Tom Cruise thing, though, because you see the video of him breaking his foot during Mission Impossible and he keeps running. It's weird.
Yeah. To get the scene. Yeah.
I'm an avid Tom Cruise hater. I could never see if Tom Cruise was like, I'm remaking Singing in the Rain, I would go off my nut. I can't do it. Tom
Cruise allegedly in a religious cult aside, allegedly. I could never forgive anyone who would have the audacity to try and remake a film like this. Like, who do you think you are?
Yeah, sit down, know your place.
It's quite unusual that someone hasn't tried to remake it, I think.
Don't put it out there. Let's just
but if you think about all of the films out there that people have remade completely unnecessarily, I'm thinking Psycho here for a start, but there's a number of them. I mean, like the likes of 12 Angry Men. Why remake 12 Angry Men? But
leave it be.
Yeah.
And also, like, the West Side Story remake, I'm sorry, but it's not great. Like, I was bored out of my mind, and I love West Side Story, but I think, like, the original West Side Story has the same kind of thing that Singin' in the Rain does, where it is this huge showpiece, and then when they made it now, it was almost like they took the sparkle out of it, and I was like, I'm sorry, Spielberg, but no, go away.
No, I completely agree. I feel like the colour was drained out of it, and I understand, obviously, there's political issues around the colour casting or colour blind casting, or wasn't successful casting in the first film, and they've obviously tried to rectify that, and I do understand that angle of it, but I felt like you're right, it kind of sucked all the fun out of it, and although the numbers were precise and they were entertaining, there wasn't this sort of like edge and flair to them that the original had. So I am whatever the opposite of manifesting is, I'm doing that so that nobody ever tries to remake Singing in the Rain. I get that there's been little tributes to it in like pop culture. There was like the car advert where they had the remix of the song and stuff like that.
Or
as long as that's as far
Royale
as it goes,
one,
yeah. That's I can just about live with that.
I like that song. It's in one of my playlists that I've got.
Yeah,
I just
like
listen
George
to it quite
Samson.
Yeah, it's got talent. Yeah, that's what I was thinking of as well. Yeah.
Right, we've obviously you mentioned there about acting through adversity with like broken feet and stuff like that. On one of the other numbers, the Singing in the Rain number itself, Gene Kelly had a fever of 107 and had to film this over the course of 2 nights, where basically they just pushed water down on him and he was like jumping about and singing and dancing. So this number is iconic. You've seen it so many, like you mentioned, Mary, you've seen it in car adverts. You see snippets from it everywhere. If you saw a still from it, you would know the actor of the film and the scene itself. It's so well known. Now, is it iconic because of the umbrella in the rain, or is there more to it, do you think, Lauren?
I think it's that kind of universal feeling of like when you start to fall in love, like now when you start getting, they can't do anything wrong and everything's great and you've just had your wee kiss in the rain and you're like, I'll just walk home, I don't care if it's pouring. And I think it's very that, like I think when you watch it, everybody gets that kind of feeling in their stomach of like, oh yeah. I think as well, I read in another interview, like just in general, like whenever you see actors that are wet, they've been wet for weeks. So like, yeah. I feel like now that you've said it was only 2 days, I was like, good for you, Gene Kelly, for only doing it for 2 days.
Making sure you had that choreography nailed.
Yeah. I take it that quite resonates with you, Mary, obviously, because you're still in your loved up face with your wee Chrissy boy, aren't you? So.
Oh yeah, I mean every time.
Oh no, the silence. Oh, sorry. I'll cut out the dead silence here before you started talking.
That's such a beautiful way of phrasing it, though. It's like when you're falling in love. Also, fun fact, I believe the water was mixed with milk in order for it to show up on screen. So not only are you soaking, you smell like old milk for 2 days.
I was going to say,
which is really gross.
The smell?
Yeah, yeah, imagine like, and then you got a fever. Yeah, disgusting. I just think the titular number is as you said, John, you could show someone a tiny little clip or a still and they would know exactly the film, the song, the actor, everything. His voice is like velvet. His dancing is so effortless. It feels like masculinity peaked in this dance number. And we talk about toxic masculinity and stuff now. Every boy should be going and watching Singing in the Rain and watching what Gene Kelly does in that number. It's just, it's like what I said before, he's so in control of his body and everything that he does is so charismatic. It's humorous, it's whimsical, it's kind of romantic. It's just perfect. It is. It's like the first butterflies of falling in love with Gene Kelly.
Our husbands are at the door like, we're like,
yeah, I know.
Are you wet?
Yeah. I do make a point of saying to Chris anytime I'm watching a Gene Kelly film, oh, remember he was only 5'8" as well.
Yeah.
Oh.
We stand a short king.
Yes, we do.
Nice. I like the way that the choreography, sort of, like you say, it sort of peaked in the sort of peak masculinity, but then he sort of reverted back to a small boy because by the end of it, he's just jumping in puddles and he's having a great time splashing water everywhere. And it's just such a childish thing to do. And it looks brilliant. It looks really good fun in order to do that. So I really like that whole part of it as well. And just the way that the whole thing kind of fits together. It works so well. But like I say, Lauren, he must have been bloody miserable.
Honestly.
Getting soaked like that, you know. Oh.
No wells, smelling of milk and being freezing cold. I would also be raging if I was Gene Kelly.
I genuinely just think I would just stand in tears. Like there's no way I would be like gliding across the screen. I think I would just be crying.
Yes, I am the world's worst patient. Like if I'm not well, everybody knows about it. So I'd have been on that set like
Nice. So let's talk about performances here. Of the sort of principals, who gives the most memorable performance and why do you think that is, Lauren?
I mean, I think we've gathered I'm a Cosmo Brown gal. Like, I think everyone in this movie has this gorgeous wee twinkle in their eye. Like, they're so in on it, and it feels like they want you in on it as well. But Cosmo is he's such a ham. He's hilarious. Every one-liner he's got is hilarious. Like, even when he's at the side and he's like, I got no fame, I got no money, what have I got? I got to get out of here. Like, it's just daft things like that. It's so, so quotable. And then also just the fact that the man can run up a door and I can't. It's just rude,
Break his nose and put it back into place. Just showing off.
Right? I've been trying to figure out how to do the jaw thing for years.
Mary.
I think if we look outside the lead three, we have to give props to Jean Hagen for what is a fairly thankless task of playing Lena Lamont. Like, her voice is like Betty Boop on steroids. She is terrible at everything. As Cosmo says, she can't sing, she can't act, she can't dance. She's a triple threat, right? Which is one of the best things in the film. But also, what I love about her is towards the end, we get to see how much of a savvy businesswoman she is. So she has the studio by the short and curlies because she knows her contract inside out. She might not be able to pronounce the words that are in her contract, but she knows what they mean, and she can dictate, obviously, where Kathy Selden's career goes. So I think there has to be a lot of props given to that performance because she's quite an odious character in a film that's full of lovely people. So I think to do that and to do it in such a memorable way, like every time I see that little clip and they do the dancing hands at the side, like I think of her. It's a really, really great performance. She's like the perfect villain for this type of film.
So you think she is a villain here rather than a victim?
Oh, do you know what? That's actually a really interesting point because she'll be every bit as wrapped up in the studio system as everybody else. And as we know back in the day, like it was just your luck, a chorus girl gets, an extra line or something, or a director, insists that you insist that you sleep with him, he sexually assaults you in order to get the next role. So she was probably, had this tough exterior because she had to, because Hollywood, as it still is, was a ruthless business. But she is a little bit of a dick to Kathy, let's be honest. She wants to ruin her career and her romance prospects because she's jealous at all the stuff that Kathy can do that she obviously can't. She knows her career's finished, so she has to finish Kathy's before it even kicks off. So yeah, I mean, she can be both, I think, in this context.
Do you agree with that, Lauren?
I agree. I think she's a real comedic villain that kind of comes into her own. Like, I love in the beginning where she's like, she really buys into her own media, and like he's like, you've been reading fan magazines again, and she's like, oh. I think she's also up there with like one of the more quotable ones as well. Like, I can't stand him. It's the most, as someone with an incredibly annoying voice, I really sympathize with her, But I think like she's almost like cartoon villainy, like by the end she's like, I'm taking this studio and I'm doing this and yada yada, and then like our downfall and they're all just like hee pulling the rope down, and it's Kathy's face at the back being like, what have you done? What is going on?
Yeah. She has.
I love that bit with the rope. Even that's choreographed perfectly because they're all doing it at the same time. It's so good. So good.
I like that bit when she's just about to go on stage and she says that she's going to take over the studio because she's more popular than Calvin Coolidge, both of them. And you just totally crack. It's just such a good line. It just kind of like tops it all off. I think she is, like you say, this sort of cartoon villain more than anything else, and you see that right from the very start when Don is introduced to her at first, when he's the stuntman and he does all these odd jobs that he has to do, and it's only when he's actually told he's going to be like involved in pictures more, he's going to be a star, that she wants to actually spend time with him, because she knows the system, she knows how it works, and being on the arm of somebody is important and everything as well. But I think it's just absolutely fantastic. I mean, how can you get away with doing a voice like that? It's so memorable. It just works so well. A nice wee thing about that was there's a scene where they're doing the looping, and Kathy is actually saying the lines that Lena would say, but that isn't actually Debbie Reynolds' voice. That's Jean Hagen's voice, her proper voice, actually doing that.
No way!
No,
you have blowing
Yep.
I have
Gorgeous
never
voice.
seen. Absolutely, I have never seen Jean Hagen in anything else. I don't think. So like, I feel like all I have in my head is of her being like, I can too, you know. So I can't believe she actually has these like velvet tones, you know.
Well, apparently she spent
That's
years.
incredible.
Yeah, she spent years afterwards when people would say, "What'd you do?" And say, "Oh, I'm an actress." You say, "Well, what have you been in?" "I was in Singing in the Rain." "What part did you play?" Because they couldn't reconcile her and the character of Lena Lamont. She was also in The Asphalt Jungle, and people were saying, "Oh, I saw that film. What part were you in it?" And he said, "There was 2 women in it. The other one was Marilyn Monroe." So,
Amazing.
so yes,
What a career.
I know. It's amazing the fact that people. Well, you kind of get that when it's such an iconic character. You get the idea that people must be like that, and that's all to do with like people don't want to get typecast because if they're associated with one particular role, then they think they are that person, whereas obviously they never are. It's a role; they're an actor. So yeah, it's just fantastic. I just love everything about her role. Just like brilliant. So the chemistry between the 2 leads, especially the romantic chemistry, do you think it kind of holds up, given that Gene Kelly was sort of mid to late 30s and Debbie Reynolds was 19 at the time? Do you think that still holds up, or do you don't really think about it in that sort of way?
I really don't. I honestly, like, I watched this movie and they're all just ageless, you know. Like, I'm not looking at it as like an older guy, younger girl kind of thing. But I don't know if that's because I've grown up with this movie, so obviously when you're a kid, you're not really thinking like, ugh. Whereas like obviously now you're like, oh, maybe not. But I think the chemistry between them all is just so effortless. Like every single one of them holds the screen in their own right. And I don't. There's no like Steve McQueening going on where like somebody's tipping their hat at the back trying to like draw focus, you know.
I think watching as an adult now, I think the age gap is slightly more obvious than perhaps I noticed as a child. However, I think the chemistry is great. Their dynamic is established really quickly. You know, he runs across the trolley and lands in her car in order to escape some fans, and she totally kids on that she doesn't know who he is. And I love her for that, because stop giving men and she drives, she's intelligent, she's opinionated, she's independent, and she just seems completely immune to his charms. And she says she doesn't like films, and once you've seen one, you've seen them all. Like, she's so game for him, and I love that, because you kind of get the impression that although Don has come from humble beginnings, and as you say, Johnny knows everyone's name, he doesn't seem to have an ego about him, but you kind of get the impression that for the past few years, while he's been this big star, he's probably not heard a lot of the word no, and that's exactly what she gives him in that opening scene. And I just think it's fantastic. It's a beautiful bit of character work that shows you that Kathy's not necessarily this young ingenue. Like, she's fully aware of the game and she knows how to play it. So I love it.
I think between the 3 of them, I think with Don's friendship with Cosmo and then relationship with Kathy, it's like he surrounds himself with people who challenge him, you know, like Cosmo's like probably one of his only friends in Hollywood who's not like, oh yeah, you're Don Lockwood, you can get whatever you like. And then also, like you say, like in the car coming up, and even up until they do the "You Were Meant for Me," don't make me sing it, but even up till then, she's like constantly challenging him, and she's constantly like, I ain't bother, right? Okay, maybe I've seen 1 or 2 of your movies, you know? And I think he really appreciates that, whereas Lena's like, oh, look at us, we're all engaged, and he's like, no, we're not, go away and leave me alone.
Yeah, I can't be engaged to that voice.
Yeah. I'm hoping the MGM won't come after us for you actually singing those lines.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
We need to wait and see. I think we'll be all right.
It was horribly out of tune. You're fine. They'll never know.
So, what does the film say about authenticity, as in art and performance? What do you think it says about that?
I think the moral of the film, and again, tell me I'm wrong if I'm wrong, but I do feel like the moral of the film is like, if you're not authentic, you're going to be found out. Like, again, like with Lena, sorry, Lena, but like she fully buys into her own hype. She's not, you don't really get the sense that she's like an actualized person. She's just kind of made up of storylines, and like up until the end where she's like, no, I'm gonna run the studio and I'm gonna talk, and they're like, wiring, and then she just immediately gets her downfall, whereas the rest of them kind of keep going because they, like, Don Lockwood's not two-faced to anybody. Again, like you were saying earlier on, he speaks to everybody on the cast and crew, like he really gets on with everybody, whereas she wants to get rid of Kathy, and she gets Zelda to get in on it and things. Like, I think it is that kind of, the moral is like, if you're true to yourself, you're going to be all right. And also moral number 2, watch out for the squeaky voices, you know.
I think it's got a lot to say about like star culture and perception versus reality, because I think in recent years, particularly with like political events that are going on in the world, people somehow feel disappointed in their favorite stars that they haven't spoken out against something, or conversely that they've actively supported something. Even like just recently, stars who are attending the Met Gala, which this year's hosted and funded by Jeff Bezos, there's a lot of disappointment around who turned up. And I think there's this notion that we put our celebrities or our stars on a pedestal, and that perception and reality are two very different things. And obviously we're not quite in a studio system now, but stars still work really hard to create an image of themselves, whether that's on Instagram or, you know, on TikTok, like sound bites or whatever. And it was particularly prevalent within the studio system, where it was told, you wear the bubbly blonde, or you wear, you know, the mousy secretary, or you wear the leading man. And so I think it really plays with this notion of what you see on screen and what's going on behind the scenes obviously are two very, very different things. And that obviously is still pertinent today. Yeah,
it does touch on the fact that you have to really know what you're doing in order to finally get ahead. And there's a limit to where you can get to by just being the face, or, you know, being a voice or whatever, but you have to have the full package in order to. And you see that time and time again. The people who have survived in that sort of industry are the ones who are talented. They're very conscious of their image, but they're willing to take risks and try something new. Now, for Don, obviously, that was doing a musical where it hadn't really been done to any sort of great extent before, and they were learning as they were going along. But he was authentic enough that it was going to work for him, because, like you said, Lauren, he's got people around him who are challenging him. So therefore, they are going to produce something original and good, rather than just doing the same thing over and over. Now, you could say they kind of just did the same thing over and over anyway, because they reused the existing material that was there in order to make this other film. But, you know, that's a slight argument, I would say. I think, you know, you can get away with it, I think. And it's difficult, like you mentioned, like people curate their images and all this sort of thing. And it was more straightforward back then because there wasn't as much in a way of outlets for fans to get information. There would be like fan magazines and things like that, but there wasn't the constant 24 hours a day internet access, where if someone is not posting, or if someone is away from the limelight, then you find that people just write shite about them anyway, because it's just to fill up column inches more than anything else, and it doesn't really matter about it. So it's very unusual for a star to have that sort of level anymore without having all sorts of baggage that actually goes on. You see it with public figures in all walks of life, not just film stars. We're currently seeing it with politicians, and any time that one of them sort of raises their head above the parapet, somebody finds out a story about their past or whatever, and that's goes right across the spectrum now, because let's face it, like they're all kind of celebrity rather than being, you know, businessman, politician, entertainer. It's just all kind of mixed up, because it's the same PR people that look after them all, really, I think, when it comes down to it.
I think that's something, like, if they were to remake it now, like, obviously Don's opening monologue of like dignity, always dignity, and, you know, he makes it out to the reporter that him and Cosmo have been going to like the finest theatre schools and, you know, raised on the best of gear, and then really it's just that they've been like jumping on trains and like playing vagabond theatres and things. And, you know, if that was made now, like, if Dawn was like, yes, we were incredible and we played in this theatre and this jazz film, there would be like an article out the next day being like, no, he didn't. He's actual skin. Like, do you know what I mean? So that I really enjoyed that. Like you were saying earlier on, like it obviously is like the image over actual story kind of thing. But I do think like if that was something they were going to remake about it now, you know, there would be somebody in the background being like, I seen him in the pub and he owes me tick, you know?
So you don't feel then that the satire that they used for that film would work now then because of the way that it's set up now?
I think yes and no. I think it could work, but right now in movies, I feel like there's a real thing just now of really dumbing everything down and really over explaining things to the audience. And I feel like they would try and do that if they were to remake this, and it just wouldn't work as well. I think as well, people are obviously now, like we're kind of in the age of like, people are starting to realize that the influencers that they're interested in aren't really the like kind of pedestal. Oh, sorry, I'll start that again. I think people are starting to realize now that influencers aren't really on the pedestal that people have put them on, and that they are real people, and that, you know, they might not always be great. Like recently there's been like another James Charles thing from YouTube that he's been like not thinking GoFundMe's or something like that. And I think people are now starting to clock what influencers are actually being their authentic selves and what ones are just kind of buying into, oh, here's my coupon code for this kind of vibe. So I feel like if they were going to try and do the satire now, it would end up being like so over explained and so dumbed down that people, it would either go right over their heads or it would actually be insulting of like, why are you taking the mick out of everybody? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I suppose so. That makes pretty good sense. So let's talk about the sort of style here now. This is a glorious looking film. So how do you think that the colour schemes and the costumes sort of elevate this film above a sort of standard run-of-the-mill musical?
Mary, take the floor.
Yeah. Mary, take the floor.
Oh my God. I mean, it's fuchsia, it's sunshine yellow, it's lime green, it's sky blue, it's gold, it's silver, it's pastel lilac. It is the whole spectrum of color, and that's not just the costuming, that's the set and the set design as well. Like everything has a real vibrancy to it. And you talked earlier about that shot where Dawn cuts through all the different productions, and you know, no matter what's going on, whether it's like a chariot race or like a derby day or something like that, everything's just so full of color. And actually, that's been one of the complaints recently of contemporary Hollywood, because if you remember when the first trailers came out for the second Devil Wears Prada, everyone said, where has the colour gone? I'm sick of the Netflixization of colour palettes in films where everything's just sort of muted. My God, you do not get that in this film. Like Gene Kelly's wardrobe alone, like his little golf slacks that are tucked into his socks and his Pringle jumpers to go with them and his jaunty hat, and Debbie Reynolds is always in like cute little fairy-like outfits, whereas Lena Lamont's are glamorous but in a sort of gaudy way because it's like too much jewels and too much, you know, frippery. And Cosmo obviously dresses like similar to Dawn but just not as sharp because he's obviously not the big star. And I just think it's so beautifully put together. Like I don't know how anyone could look at this film and not just feel joy and vibrancy and a real sort of like pleasure of taking it all in. It's stunning. Yeah.
Lauren.
Even again, everything you've just said, I'm just going to echo, because see the purple outfit that Kathy wears, I'm like, I want that the now. Like I would wear that into my work. Like hello. Even I think the colors and stuff also give you like a real kind of peek behind the curtain, because when Dawn goes to tell Kathy that he's in love with her and he's like, oh, stand there, here's the wind machine, here's some lights, and he like sets it all up of like how he's setting the mood, and then when he starts singing you're like, oh, and then you're like, oh wait, that's why I feel the way I do, like because he's got the purple going on and the wind machine, and she looks, see when he says she looks glorious in the moonlight, no one has ever said that to me in my life, and I'm not over it.
I know. But honestly, this film, as much as it's beautiful to look at, it does make you yearn so much as well.
Honestly, it's like Gene Kelly still makes you swoon, you know, like whatever he does, you're like, no, right then.
Yes, he is a particularly handsome man. That has to be said. In that scene that you just mentioned there, Lauren, Debbie Reynolds used to chew gum before the scenes because obviously it helped her sort of concentrate. And just before the scene started, when she was up on the ladder, she took the piece of gum out and actually stuck it onto the ladder. And while they were filming the scene, Gene Kelly's hairpiece got caught in the chewing gum, and he was not a happy bunny.
Wait, did you just
God, John, you keep coming out with the best story.
I'm so
Yes,
I didn't know he was wearing a wig. That's pure what?
Yeah, it was.
I think it was a
little thin on top.
It was a top.
Yeah. It was. It enhanced his hair, give it a bit of bounce, I think, more than anything else. I don't think he was like totally bald or anything, but he was getting there. Same way that Fred Astaire.
That's absolutely rocked me to my core.
But yeah, I mean, it was seamless.
The thought,
you didn't
like
really
him
notice it.
losing his temper was it, like, because obviously he does have quite a famous temper for getting his choreography right. The thought of, and also just knowing that she's standing there, knowing that she put that gum on there, and he's just like, oh, you could die a thousand deaths. I'm surprised she didn't get fired. Quite honestly.
That was what I was going to say, because you just have to stand there and take it, because he's going to get you half the film if you don't. Do you know what I mean? So you're just like, sorry, Gene.
Yeah, I think it was probably too far into the production at that point. I don't think they could really have done it, because this was an expensive film to make. The costumes alone cost something like £500,000 or $500,000 to make, just because, not because of the number of costumes, but the different types of costumes and the intricacy. And especially with the sort of the period costumes where it was all the dancing cavalier and stuff and all that. It was very intricate, and I found that fascinating. The fact that they put so much effort into the way that they looked, especially when it was a black and white film. The film stages were vibrant, full of color, and yet it's a black and white film that you're actually getting to the back of it. But that wasn't the point of it. We're behind the scenes and seeing everything that works in that way. And like you say, Lauren, that scene where they go into the big set and there's nothing there and it puts the lights on and all this kind of thing, yeah, it's absolutely gorgeous the way they did that. And I especially in that scene, I like the fact that it wasn't totally beautifully lit. It was as if you just switched on the lights, because they were going from shadow into light and back into it and all that. So it felt, well, as natural as you're going to feel with a musical when they're singing and dancing. But yeah, so I've obviously mentioned that, but what sort of filmmaking techniques kind of stood out for you in a film that was actually made in 1952?
I'm not very good at this I'm not very good at being able to like name different techniques and things, but I know how the film, like how different film makes me feel kind of thing. And
Yes.
I think this movie really stands up, like even in, obviously now we're watching it in like HD, 4K, and it still looks great. Like even seeing Gene Kelly's like forehead wrinkles, I was like, oh, he's a real person, you know? Like I think there's not really as much of like you don't feel as like separated from the film anymore, because again, I know everybody's moaning about 4K that you can see like every wrinkle and pore and everything, but I feel like it brings you more into the film now. I think this is a film that you're along for the ride with them, but I think especially now watching it in the new technology, I was like, no way.
Yeah, I think it sort of stands up because if you think about it with cinema films, and especially if you've got like a sort of an extreme close-up of an actor and it's in color, then the screen is bloody massive. You know, you've got this big face, so they have to actually light it well and they have to do the makeup well. It's more sort of recent things that have been made for like sort of standard definition much later than this. These films are actually, I think they're actually around about 8K they were actually made, and it wasn't actually noted at the time what it was, but the sort of the standard of it is up there with sort of the modern technology actually screens it, so it doesn't look that bad. You don't see like really dodgy makeup or anything that you would see on something that's maybe about 30 years from there. And it's made for a situation where it's vibrant colors and everything, so I think it really works like totally well. No, sorry, Mary, I hijacked that from you there.
No, that's absolutely fine. All I was going to say is I do love the sort of breaking of the fourth wall that happens quite a lot during the film. I think Donan's style is quite playful throughout the film, which again is sort of in keeping with these sort of big whimsical musical numbers that we have. You know, it starts off with Dawn fully addressing the camera on the red carpet, and we get those little, like, almost like a wink as like, here's the real story sort of thing as we get the flashbacks. So I think that Donan's camera is really fluid throughout, as you would expect for a musical, because you've got these sort of big scale numbers, but also it really allows you to get intimate with the actors as well, because it does have these sort of not only just close-ups, but close-ups where the character's directly addressing the audience. So there's a real sort of tongue-in-cheek kind of playfulness to the film that I really appreciate as well.
Yeah, I really like the use of sort of cranes in this, because there's a lot of movement, like I say, it's fluid, it goes in and out and goes to the side and everything. And in a sort of modern film, you would have sort of like a dolly track set up and the camera would be on that, and you would never see it, or they would CG it out. But here, they make really good use of it, because the camera is all over the place, and it highlights sort of the way that they really move about and everything as well. Something that I did notice with this film is that there are quite a lot of cuts in it. It's not as fluid as I thought it would be, but that's probably more down to the intricacy of the actual dancing and everything, that it would be very, very difficult, and it would need like 30 or 40 takes in order to do something. But if they do it in stages, then it's much more controllable, I think. I'm not speaking from the expertise of a dancer here. Mary, you've seen me dance. It's not pretty. So.
I do have that on video.
Excellent.
Yeah. Oh. So it's a bit of a silly question, but why do you think it's considered one of the greatest musicals? Is it just everything?
I mean, yeah, like I think there's not like a skippable song. Every song is a belter. I think as well, it kind of plays into, like, everybody loves a good old Hollywood story, and this is the perfect kind of peek behind the curtain movie of like, we're in it, but we're telling you kind of vibe. And I think especially now, see, with more modern books, like Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo that's came out, which is another kind of peek behind the curtain based on Elizabeth Taylor, but not really kind of vibe. I think people are more open to bringing this movie more into their lives, if you know, like with the, sorry, I hiccuped there, with more of the peek behind the curtain into the old glamorous times that actually weren't as glamorous as what they were made out to be. I don't mean that to sound like a downer. I think this movie's perfect and fabulous in every single way and should never be off my telly. But I think that's kind of why it's coming back into the forefront with a lot of people, just because of a lot of kind of more modern literature and stuff that's like, oh, look over there.
Yeah, I suppose, yeah. Mary?
Yeah, I just think, and I've said this already, but we just don't get films made like this anymore. And I'm not even talking about in the sense of like musicals. There are not enough musicals made anymore. That's just a fact. But just the willingness to sort of send up the industry itself. I feel like sometimes when we get the glimpse behind the curtain in cinema, it feels very worthy and like, oh, look at this amazing work that we're doing. Whereas Don acknowledges that this is not sort of hard work. Like he's having fun with his friend and his new potential girlfriend. Lena Lamont is hard work, but that's just who she is as a person. And I think that we just, it's banger after banger. The costumes, the visuals, the set pieces, and of course the enduring star power of Gene Kelly. Let's not diminish the fact that, this man still sells out cinemas. Case in point, I went to see this last year at the GFT in the main auditorium, and it was completely sold out, and it got a huge round of applause at the end. And you can see people are sort of tapping their toes or, going along with it, laughing, joking, etc. And part of that is down to his undeniable charisma and butt.
Not necessarily in that order.
No, take your pick, yeah.
So the music in this film, I know this is an unscripted question, but the music in this film, there are only 2 original songs in this. Well, maybe just even 1.5, because like Make 'Em Laugh is really not an original song at all. Is it Be a Clown, the Cole Porter song, who came on set and heard the song and went, Yeah, and the director's like, look over there, there's some shine over there, to try and distract him, because it's kind of lifted wholesale from this original song. So there's that one in the Moses Supposes are both original songs. The rest of them have been used several times. I think Singin In The Rain was used 7 times before it actually came on the film itself. So how do you think that, does it work well? Is it seamless, the newer songs and the older songs? Do you think it works particularly well, or do you kind of get the sense that they are just reusing stuff, which kind of fits in with all the themes that we've talked about obviously before, like the reuse of like old films, like, you know, let's make it a musical kind of idea and things like that. But do you think it works that way? I know it's joyous and everything, and your heart swells when you hear these songs, but does it work? And do you think it works for a modern audience as well?
I think so. I didn't actually know that these weren't original songs until you just told me there. So this has honestly blown my mind. There's been some bombs dropped today. But honestly, if you didn't know, you wouldn't know. Again, like my face is telling you right now. But I think it's all really seamless, and I think they all kind of filter into one another. Like I think you could play them in any order, and they would all kind of still work.
Yeah. Definitely. It's interesting as well when they were actually making the film or putting it together, they come up with the songs first and then put the story around it. So it's almost like a Fast and Furious film where they've decided where the big explosions and the car chases are going to be, and then they have the acting bits in between it. It's that same sort of idea.
Sorry, did you just compare Singin In The Rain to Fast and Furious?
Classic and modern classic.
See, now I'm like Vin Diesel in Singin In The Rain. Could we make this work? Is this the sequel that nobody knew that we needed?
With the Don Lockwood hairpiece.
Exquisite. Yes. I'm so in. Someone phone someone to make this happen.
I think we say this every other pod. We're like, oh, we've got this great idea. Hollywood executives lap this up. Nobody has taken us on yet, but this might be the one.
It may well be, yeah. So, Mary, do you think the songs work well?
Yeah, I mean, the only one I knew about was Make Him Laugh. I knew that was a rip-off. However, I just think that the way all of their voices work, and the fact that this is it's a nostalgic film for an era that's set in an era that we don't know anything about and was made in an era that we romanticize. So I think that the blend of sort of genres and style of singing actually really works, because it's a 1950s film but set in the 1920s, watched in 2026. So I mean, as Lauren said, you could listen to it in any order and it would still be perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's imagine that we were actually in the film ourselves. Who would be the most chaotic character to work with, do you think?
Me, probably, because I'd have been running about like, oh yeah, great, pass me the door. Oh, Lena, give me the costume. Like,
yeah, I feel like Donald O'Connor would be doing his bit, and Lauren, you'd be like, I can flip off that door as well. Just watch me. You'd be like,
absolutely. And then you have to phone the paramedics immediately because there's like 2 broke legs and an arm's going that way. I'd be like, oh, we'd have a great time.
Meanwhile, I've given myself a hernia from trying to stretch out my leg the way Sid Charisse does.
Yeah, we would be immediately taken off set, like 5 minutes in, like, ladies, no more.
I think it would be fairly chaotic actually having to work with the director, because he seemed to have a particularly short fuse for anything going wrong. He didn't really have much patience when he was going, so I think that would be a bit of a challenge as well. So you've obviously mentioned bodily injuries and everything as well. So what musical number do you think you could actually do in this film?
I mean, all of them. Who are you speaking to? I would love to be in the Beautiful Girls one just to try on all the outfits. Like, those are some great dresses, and I want a shot of every single one of them. Thank you very much.
Nice.
Yeah, my heart tells me that I could do Moses Supposes, but my head and lower back tells me that I would be dead within seconds. So I would love to. I mean, who hasn't twirled an umbrella in the rain and scooped it all up and danced around? Of course, everyone has. If you say you haven't done it, you're a liar. But yeah, because I love Moses Supposes so much, I've always wanted to tap dance on a desk. So That's what I want to do, but physically what I'm capable of is nothing.
Yeah, I'm
sorry.
no, I'm kind of with you there, Mary. I would probably be the guy that gets the umbrella handed to him in the Singin In The Rain scene. That would be my limit. Being able to walk in a straight line and put an umbrella up at the same time would be as much as I could do.
I could pop out a cake. I could definitely do that.
Oh man. So what's the one thing that makes the film feel rooted in the 1950s more than anything else?
I think definitely the costumes and the hair, just as like a period piece. I know it's supposed to be in the 20s, but this is the most 50s, 20s I've ever seen. And I think the general, I'm not too sure what the proper word for it is, but like the general filter over the movie is very like, as soon as you press play on this movie, you're like, I'm in the 50s, even though you're supposed to be in the 20s. I do also think maybe the hints of slight racism in the back of the camera in some of the shots, that's very 50s, and we kids on, we don't see that anymore.
Yes, that's right, because there's a jungle scene getting filmed, isn't there?
Yep.
There is.
Yeah.
We just fast forward those 2 seconds. Yeah, I think, you know what, just the exploration of the studio system and the star system, that's very 1950s. You know, you had your gossip columns, you had your, you know, picture book romances with leading actors in it. And this, as I say, this curation of the star image was very much, you know, at its peak in the 1950s. You didn't actually know anything about these stars other than what the magazines told you about them, and of course all of it was a load of bollocks because they were either gay or sleeping around or getting, you know, coat hanging abortions, all this sort of thing. So it really is just this notion that, you know, there's stars and then there's the real sort of slight griminess of working in Hollywood, although it doesn't get too dark.
Yeah, coat hanger abortion, the musical, was one that never really took off, was it?
That's some awkward.
Yeah. There's I'm writing a book as we speak.
I'll be the tap dancing coat hanger.
So, as a final question for you both, and you've probably already done this, Lauren, but if you were in the position where you had to describe this film in 1 or 2 sentences to someone who had never seen it, which again, you've done recently, what would you actually say?
I mean, what I actually told her was, sit down, shut up, I'm going to show you a masterpiece, which, you know, could work. But I think magic joy is 2 words to describe this movie. Absolutely.
Yeah. Very good. Mary?
As close as you can get to a perfect film. That's it.
Yeah. I would totally agree with that. It's one of these ones where you would just say to somebody, I think you're going to enjoy this. Just sit down and get swept.
Oh, do that again. That was very ASMR in my ears.
Wasn't it? I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, that's going to be... Mary's been wanting me to do a sideline and that sort of thing for a while, and I just keep going, no.
You would make a fortune. You have very velvet tones. Round tones.
Yes, I can't stand him.
And I can't stand him.
So, that is us for today. Another successful podcast in the bank. Lauren, where can our listeners find more of your stuff?
So I do a podcast with my husband called 10 out of 10 Would Watch Again. We do good movies, bad movies. We do versus weeks, which are kind of becoming I don't want to say fan favorite, but fan favorite, where basically me and my husband just pick 2 topics and argue, and everybody seems to think it's really funny. So we do that. We're over on wherever anybody listens to their podcast. We're also on Instagram and TikTok. But I'm not very good at TikTok because I am 32 years old and I have no business being good at TikTok, you know?
I have to say that Lauren's Braveheart podcast, which came out round about the same time as our Braveheart podcast, is a must listen. And also, she recently reminded me of the Seal Kiss from a Rose song from the Batman film and how nobody knows the fucking lyrics to this. And it was just, So
you
much
and
joy.
me were like messaging back and forward, being like, something about a Roman church. What's going on with the snow? Like,
It's fairly incredible the number of times that song has actually been used. I can think of two instances off the top of my head. It was used in Vacation, the remake of National Lampoon's Vacation. The family sang that as a song, and it was used in, I think it was the pop star Never Stop, Never Stopping, and Seal was actually in that
amazing, amazing.
before he get mauled by
He's the only one
wolves.
that knows the words. There aren't the words. It all means nothing.
Part of me like never wants to do it on karaoke because I don't want to know the words. Do you know what I mean? I just want to like turn my back to it and be like, "Yep."
Just free flow. That's what you need. Yep. Free form. Yep. So you can find all of our content on the usual places. We have the podcast. We have the website. If you want to look for moviescramble.co.uk, we are on all the social media platforms as well. Just hit us up on there. Tell us what you think about the podcast. Give us a wee 5-star review. It really boosts our flagging egos. And yes, if you would like to get in touch with us, you can find us at podcast@moviescramble.co.uk. If you want to drop us a line about something you think we might want to cover, whether you like the stuff, or even if you want to get involved in this particular venture that we are doing at the moment, the Collab podcasts, we are more than happy to speak to as many people as possible. You don't need to be great, you can be shite. We really don't mind at all. So
I mean, look at us, we've made a career out of it.
I was going to say, you invited me on. We're all good to go. My style of podcasting is very translate for the Neds, like that chewing the fat sketch.
we do have a fan who particularly likes their Scottish accents, and there's a kind of a running gag that we put on the Scottish accents at the start because we wanted to sound a wee bit more street, and we can't stop doing it now because we've been doing it for so long. Yeah,
and we'll try and get a wee word in like Dreich or something so that they can really soak up.
Or Scunner or something like that. Yeah.
Amazing.
So all that remains to say from myself and the guests is cheerio.
Bye.
Cheerio.